Great. Let's call the Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, September 2nd. Order, please rise as you're able and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. And we will recognize the Assistant Township Manager to provide us with the meeting procedures and the call to roll.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the members of the board, staff, and public for joining us this evening for the September 2nd Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors regular meeting. This meeting has been properly advertised in accordance with the Pennsylvania Sunshine Act as a hybrid meeting with the option to attend virtually and in person here in the main meeting room. If you are in attendance virtually using the WebEx platform and wish to speak on behalf of an agenda item, please say your name, municipality of residence, and the topic you wish to speak on when the chair calls on you. If you are attending in person with us in the main meeting room and wish to speak on behalf of an agenda item, please address the board at the podium and state your name, municipality of residence, and the topic you wish to speak on. Members of the public attending using the WebEx platform are asked to remain muted during the meeting to prevent any ambient noise from disrupting the meeting. If a member of the public is acknowledged by the chair, they may unmute their microphone for their question or comment. Secondly, board members are asked to indicate their name when motioning or seconding a motion so that the minutes may accurately reflect the action taken. Finally, a roll call of the Board of Supervisors will now be taken to ensure that all members can hear and interact using the WebEx meeting platform. Please indicate that you are here when your name is called. Mr. Thompson. Here. Mr. Patterson. Here. Ms. Stevens.
Here.
Mr. Heller.
Here.
Ms. Strickland.
Here.
Chair, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you. We'll move on then with no announcements, proclamations. We'll move on to public comments. So at this time, we'll allow the public to address the Board of Supervisors. As always, you get about 5 minutes. We ask you to state your name and municipality of residence, and we'll start in the room with Mr. Glebe. I'll step forward there.
Wesley, Ferguson Township. So I was going to do a book report. I'm still going to do a book report. But then I got some other ideas. This is The Language of Climate Politics by Genevieve Gwenther. I read about it in the Guardian review, and it really inspired me to get a copy. She's making a case that the climate change situation is not okay, it's not stabilized. In fact, she brings up the fact that there are actually 16 critical tipping points that if any one of them intercedes with the other, it could be catastrophic. Now, I read a lot about this stuff, and I hadn't heard this said before. And just talking to this young man over here, who's a meteorologist, and he got like that. So this is good stuff, and I just wanted to recommend that you might consider it. Then I got the idea, well, these are the kind of things that inspire me. I thought, well, what if everybody here, while they're reading stuff that interests them and keeps them abreast of what their job is and supervisory position is, what if you took and posted what you read on the Ferguson website so that other people could be inspired and see what you're doing. If you're reading comic books, I wouldn't go there, but if you're into some good stuff, I think it would be a cool idea to have everybody have a look at and have a share. So that's my first presentation. The next one is UAJA, so. Thanks.
Thank you, Wes. Any others in the room want to address the Board of Supervisors for items not on the agenda? Seeing none, anyone online? All right, seeing none there. That will move us to the approval of the minutes. So if there is no corrections to the minutes, I would entertain a motion to approve the August 19th meeting minutes.
This is Patty, so moved.
Right, do we have a second?
This is Matt, second.
Right, motion by Ms. Stevens, second by Mr. Heller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. All right, reports and presentations are diversity, equity, and inclusionary activities and acknowledgements. Yesterday was Labor Day. World Suicide Prevention Day is September 10th. Patriot Day is September 11th. Hispanic Heritage Month will begin on September 15th. International Equal Pay Day will be on September 18th. And Rosh Hashanah will be September 22nd through September 24th. Next, we'll have our authorities, boards, and commission reports. Tonight, we have the State College Borough Water Authority Liaison Report, and here with us joining us online is Mr. Ford Stryker.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'll keep my report fairly brief. I think I sent in some information back in July, I guess, which wound up in your packet. I just wanted to mention a couple items that were included there. In both the August meeting and the July meeting, I would say maybe in neither one of those meetings, there was no discussion about the Rock Springs Water Company. I guess that's still being held up in the legal area. Anyway, it didn't come up in either one of those two board meetings. The other thing I wanted to note was the tap fees to connect to the water system have gone up. They're now going to be $4,458, and that fee increase will take effect on October 25th. Apparently, the tap fees haven't been increased in 8 years, so that accounts for the pretty healthy increase in tap fees. And the last thing I wanted to mention was the Water Authority published their annual report, which has got a lot of information in it about, the water service. I wanted to just call out 2 points that I guess I didn't completely appreciate until I looked at it. So it turns out Ferguson Township has 4,466 accounts with the Water Authority. And that's actually more accounts than the borough has. The borough has 4,330. But Ferguson Township's revenue to the Water Authority represents 26.9% of the revenue versus the borough's contribution, which is 35 or almost 36%. And then the next largest revenue contributor is Patton Township at 22.5%. Anyway, I guess the point in all this is Ferguson Township is a major consumer of water and a big part of the State College Borough Water Authority. And, I'd encourage anybody that, if you're a geek or a nerd or whatever and you want to see, all the specifics about the Water Authority, check out their annual report, which is online. So that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Ford, what was you mentioned the new tapping fee. How much did it go up? What percentage, or what was it?
I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, but I believe the former tapping fee was in the order of $2,700, and it went up to $4,458, so it went up a lot.
Okay.
I could find out the number. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it was a very significant increase. But again, it hadn't gone up in 8 years. So I guess if you look at it that way, they had hired their engineering firm to do a pretty comprehensive analysis of, what it costs to actually perform a tap. And then, when you're doing a tap fee, you're also buying into the, I'll call it the embedded investment in the water authority. And so, that entered into the cost as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Heller.
Mr. Stryker, thank you for that. This is Matt Heller. Just a quick question. Hearing the borough numbers compared to Ferguson Township numbers, knowing that we have more residents, less residents, let me pause for a moment. We are more residents, but we're paying less. Is that because we're more efficient with our water use, or since it's billed by usage?
Yeah, so that was kind of so Ferguson Township has more accounts, but the water consumption per account in Ferguson Township is less than the borough. I don't know this for a fact, but I would guess that, some of the borough accounts are for fairly large buildings, whereas I'm guessing most of the accounts in Ferguson Township are, maybe residential. So I'll bore you with some more numbers, but the average use in Ferguson Township is about 94,000 gallons, whereas in the borough, it's 128,000 gallons. That's per account. So, you can see that the accounts in the borough, even though there's fewer accounts, that each account uses more water, and that's directly proportional to the revenue.
Okay.
So I guess that helps.
Yes, it does perfectly. Thank you so much for that. That was my only question.
You have anything, Mr. Patterson?
Yes, I guess I'm a little concerned. I think I heard this same logic with UAJA, the whole buying into the past. I guess, Mr. Stryker, do you have any more rationale on that? Are they saying like, hey, I'm gonna, somebody's been paying $100 a month for 20 years, there's my tap fee added on to what it actually is to tap? Like, what is that? No one's quantified that logic to me.
So I'm not sure I can completely answer that, but basically the tap fees are the fees that a user pays to access the system, right? So over the years, the borough water authorities invested a lot of money in wells and pipelines and storage tanks and treatment systems. So there's a capital investment there. And I think the tap fee is to reflect that every time there's a new person joining or a new account joining the system, they probably should pay some money to get access to tap into the system. It's sort of the same logic that UAJA uses for their tap fees, although theirs are higher, I think. But it's not based on like monthly bills over some period of time in the past. It's more about it's a capacity fee. Maybe that's a different way to think about it. I don't know. Does that help?
Sure. I think maybe it'd be helpful if you were, kind of engaging this conversation in your next board meeting to just understand I get it, capacity fee. Every fee's it's quantified in some way. The cost for the water is, all right, we've got these many gallons coming through, we've got the filters and this and that, and so boom, you got 10 cents a gallon. But the tap fee, that's something else that I heard UAJ made the same logic. I didn't get any quantification when I asked, like, well, what does that really include? And so it almost seemed kind of arbitrary.
Yeah. So, like I said, they did a study. I didn't get, they didn't share with us a copy of the study, but I think I can probably get that from Brian Heiser. And if I can, I'll share that with the township and then manager, and they can forward it to you guys. And I would assume in there would explain exactly how they calculated the number. I mean, it's pretty specific, so, like
Okay.
down to the nearest dollar. So I think the logic will be laid out in here.
Thank you.
But anyway, I'll take that as an action item and try to track it down for you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? If not, I thank Mr. Stryker for his report.
Okay, have a good evening.
You too. Thank you for joining us. All right. That was the Water Authority. Now we'll move on to the Sewer Authority with University Area Joint Authority Report. Mr. Glebe.
I applaud the order of these items, by the way. Water coming in, water going out.
Well, to reiterate and maybe clarify from the UAJ perspective in terms of the tapping fee, the tapping fee at UAJ is somewhere around $7,000. And oftentimes that's paid by the contractor who builds the house or the subdivision. As it's been put to me, it isn't necessarily like if you bought a house that wasn't on the system, you would have to pay to have it connected. So that's a separate thing, the digging and the hooking up, tapping into the main. But as it's been told to me, the problem is the tapping fee is a misnomer. And I and some other people are trying to, get this redefined. It's more like Ford said, it's a capacity fee. You're paying for available capacity at the sewer authority. And I assume that it's probably very much the same with the water authority. They have to be able to provide the water that all the customers need. And like I know at UAJA, there's excess capacity because it's sort of necessary to build out that way in order to maintain a reliable position. Football games, there's things that jump it up. So I would imagine it's similar. I can't speak about water usage because I don't know. As far as I know, there's not a lot of effort in this center region in terms of water conservation. Now, if we had another drought like we had a decade ago, then maybe something would happen. But right now, I don't think people worry about whether there's enough water available. And of course, if you look at the reuse water that's generated by the sewer authority, they have so much reuse water that they have to figure out how to get rid of it. They can only put so much, according to DEP, into Spring Creek. And the rest of it, they have to find customers, like the concrete company, Center Concrete, the company that washes and launders industrial stuff, hotels. They use reuse water for their fire suppression systems and things like that. It's very critical that there's a way to get that back into the system. I mean, I think I should talk about that another time because it does get complicated in terms of, well, in my mind, the ratepayers paid to clean that water to the level of potability, which it is. But how do we get any revenue back? Well, there is some that comes back, but it comes back like College Township gets some, and then I'm lost. It just becomes complicated, and I don't. Lisa, do you remember any of that?
No, I mean, it's exactly what you're saying. It's it's the question of how to recoup the.
The reuse is I know it's a big issue because there's so much reuse water, and the state hasn't allowed it to be used as potable water yet. It could be. It's cleaner than, sorry, it's cleaner than the water authority. I remember we had this headbutt before, but in fact it is by the tests. Okay, so maybe I can make my report now. Well, you have in your packet what Corey sends to Ferguson. And I went through it, and I'm not going to do it again for you. It's unnecessary punishment because you know, a little here, a little there has changed. So I thought I would take a different strategy and tell you what I've been doing at UAJA. In terms of inspiration and what I read, ARC News, The Authority, which is a magazine the municipal authorities puts out, very interesting magazine, and WENT, Water, Environment, and Technology. And there's some other ones, but these are the ones that I could lay my hands on this afternoon. So I've been on a work committee to try to get some resolution for the new rate study, and there is no resolution yet. So I'm just telling you that I've been working. There's 3 committees, and I'm on one of them. The other thing I've been doing is driving around with the supervisor of infrastructure outside of the campus, all the pipes, pumps, and wet wells, dry wells, and all of that. I just thought it would be a really good idea to try to get a better understanding of how the system works. So I've been doing that. I had my first 3 hours in, and there's probably another 4 of them to do. There's just so much to cover. One of the interesting things, we came back to campus one day, and I don't mean Penn State, I mean the UAJA campus. And I was introduced to the man who runs the camera truck and does all the repairs. So I got a chance to ask him, one of the questions I asked him was, does it make any sense for the townships to share cammering equipment? And he said, absolutely, no question. I mean, this would be for stormwater. And one of the things that came up, right now, there's a truck with a computer on it. It's all set up. I think there's, there may be a popcorn popper in there. It's luxurious, you know. They're all that way. And so they drive that truck around and camera both the main pipes and laterals. But then he said, we just ordered what he called a mobile camera. And the reason I'm telling you about this is because it's a much smaller unit that you can just drive around in a pickup truck and take this off the truck and utilize it like for stormwater. And it looked to me like it would be something that would be really beneficial for the townships, Ferguson, to consider. If I don't know where you are with, does anybody know where you are with camera equipment?
We're still contracting.
We can contract that out, yeah.
We still contract service.
Oh, you're outsourcing it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, it's still, you know, those contracts come to an end. You might look at the cost and the feasibility of this mobile type unit.
Mr. Assistant Manager.
Taking
That's
notes.
something, yeah, so we have that note, okay, all right.
Yeah, I think that note's gonna go into the budget.
Take a look at it.
I can't hear what you're saying, so.
So we'll take a look at it, Wes.
Yeah, just seemed like just a good piece of information. The other thing that I ran into was the UHAA solar fields. The one is purchased now, and the second one, I guess, is in process of being purchased. And Corey said to me, we said one day, we were talking about the Walker Township field that the townships have gotten into a group purchase and whatnot. And I always found that upsetting because they spent almost $500,000 on legal fees when it was supposed to be limited to $150,000. And so Corey and I were talking about that, and he said, they never came to me, they never asked me a question. I mean, I guess he meant that the solar is a done deal, and it's been proven out at the sewer authority, and the townships never came, school district never came, and discussed the ins and outs of somebody right out their back door who's already done it. So that's just another thing that came up. The whole infrastructure, pipes, laterals, connections, pump locations are completely GIS now. It's completed. So, I don't know, do you guys know whether you've GIS'd your stormwater systems and whatnot?
The stormwater system is currently all GIS capable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Because I mean, the guy I was with was just over the moon about the fact that, not just that it was done, but that how helpful it was going to be managing the system. So, and I just wanted you to know that just me, I took the COG planning classes that were given a month or so ago. And that's another thing that keeps me inspired to keep reading, because it turned out that all the questions I asked at that planning stuff, I didn't get any answers. So I figured I have to keep reading. So that's not a besmirch against anybody, it's just the way it was. So, would you like to ask any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Glebe?
Is Corey, has Corey, you brought it up, but has Corey actually offered to allow municipalities to use those mobile cameras?
I can't say yes to that, but I don't think anybody's asking. He's UHAA has a big attitude about sharing. I've picked up on that a lot. So.
A good attitude or a bad attitude?
Good attitude.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying. No, I'm always impressed, so I would, just, or go out. Again, I wanted to thank all you guys for going out and doing a tour. That was great that you did that. All right, I'm ready for questions.
I'm ready for the next tour.
What's that?
I'm ready for the next tour.
No questions?
I don't think so.
No, I have not.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you for all that information there, Wes.
Hope it's helpful.
It's kind of nice to have both both the Water Authority and UAJA here tonight, so I appreciate hearing from both, so thank you again. Yes.
I wanted to potentially take some time to, while we're all here, last month's meeting, we talked about, we were talking about the fields.
Yes.
And we didn't have everybody, and it was like, hey, let's give it a moment. But I thought if everybody's okay with it, I'd love to spend just a couple minutes talking about the Hess Field and the request for the pipe and maybe what we're gonna do next there. Get aligned as a team here. That's my question for you.
And I did send the information out today of where they're proposing to go forward with, allowing a special exception for the sewer extension to Hess softball complex. There was a presentation during the Lucy committee, as well as an exhibit to the proposed draft revision of that, and a memo from Harris Township. So I forwarded that over, well, at least to the manager to, pass on to all of you. It looks like since CRPC, they were to be next in line to look at that, but their meeting for September was canceled. But essentially, we want the board to be familiar enough with this, because it will eventually come back around for municipalities to discuss. And if there is any particular position where the majority of the board would like to take, just like we have in the past for Mr. Heller going in the finance committee, when it comes to budget, if there is a particular stance that the board wants to take, to be able to make sure Lisa and whoever else may be representing the township through the committees can share that opinion. So encourage you to watch the the beginning of the Lucy committee meeting. It was right there at the, of course, the whole meeting was like an hour, but I think that particular item like a half hour to 45 minutes. So encourage everyone to take a look at that.
So are we having this discussion under our COG committee reports, like under facilities or Parks Capital? Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, under authorities, boards, and commissions, it's just kind of like a C. It just doesn't exist.
Right. I'm just trying to stick to our agenda, so maybe.
Oh, fair enough. We could.
Yeah, and
I'll point out, COG staff had reached out to staff and mentioned that they were identifying some additional historic information that might be relevant to the discussion, that they first needed to assemble and then take back to the Lucy committee before bringing it back for municipal discussion. I guess, and I'm not really aware of the details of it, but it seemed like there was some additional historical information that could impact the decision-making process.
That's interesting.
yeah, and based on that information, I do remember COG staff was going to notify the municipal managers, and like I said, from the last Lucy, it was to go back to CRPC, but they're not meeting this month, so it does not sound like there's an urgency to move this through, at least not now, but, I guess I can circle back around to our staff. If anything, if this is coming back to Lucy, we can maybe put this on the agenda for the next meeting, so.
Did I see that Lucy was canceled?
That's what I was just gonna say, yeah, Lucy's
Well,
canceled this month, so we
right,
can have
so
the discussion.
October, make sure we have the
Yeah.
information for October, Lucy.
And then I do believe at that point it would be a specific agenda item for discussion. But it sounds like there's still some
Yeah.
information being gathered.
Log my concern.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because I had mentioned about possibly discussing this again at this meeting, but again, this appears to be going a little bit more slower than anticipated, so, let's not rush it. Like I said, I had sent out the information. We'll make sure we get that to all of you so you can catch up on the initial discussion and materials before going further in depth on that. So,
I
appreciate that. Yeah, I think, the more materials we can have, and like you said, the meeting, all those things to review before we discuss it, I think it'd be really helpful. And I just wanted to mention, I think Lucy is moved for October because it ran into PML timing, so I'll have to check,
yeah,
but I
yeah.
think there's a different date on that.
So we could possibly have even 2 meetings out yet.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Mr. Heller?
If I may, whatever documentation is produced, I will say the one thing that I'm still looking for is somebody asking for all these improvements. I haven't heard from residents, I haven't heard from anybody saying, we want X, Y, Z, A, B, and C here.
Harris.
A township,
Right,
but
yeah.
we haven't heard from the folks that are using it, the softball teams that are coming in, the local folks that are using it. Nothing that I have seen has shown residents pushing for this. So that's something I would be looking for in the documentation, however that is produced. That's all.
Interesting.
Just putting it out there.
I could definitely tell you, I'm trying to think if it was executive committee. I have heard feedback, I think, especially from the sports teams, when it's 90 degrees outside, they want something other than the plastic porta-john to be going in and out of the restroom. But
Yes.
they want a more pleasant restroom, and
Got it. And
so
that's,
that has been a
Yeah.
point of contention that, we're trying, that there are elected officials that would like to see resolved, so.
yeah. And that's why I'd like to go ahead and put my arms around all of the requests, et cetera, to better understand that.
Yeah.
Because at this point, that's just not front and center in the conversation.
Yes, and I think, to your point, Jerry, I think, there were different levels at that first presentation of, luxury trailers and things that we had favored. There were different levels as opposed to the leap to the sewer connection. So there's quite a gulf there. So I think
Yeah.
re-looking at what those options have been so that we can get around a consensus opinion.
All right. I was gonna say, is that everything for sewer and sewer authority tonight? Get onto the pleasantries of the meeting with our COG and Regional Committee reports. Parks and Recreation Governance Committee.
Nothing to report there other than we continue to meet and looking through the documents. I keep hoping our municipal comments are due back by September 19th. So I keep hoping that it'll be on our agenda to discuss it or just review it, the agreement between the authority and COG and the municipalities. I know the township managers have looked at it and put in their suggestions, etc., that will be incorporated into it. So I'm hoping on our next meeting, Jeremy, that it will be on the agenda to have a look at it. And other than that, we continue to plug away document by document, bylaws, memorandum of understanding for services for the parks and that sort of thing, and just keep plugging away.
You would talk to the manager about that?
I believe it actually had come from COG to the managers.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
And when did you need that again?
It would have to be at our next meeting, on our next agenda, because the municipal comments are due back by the 19th.
I think my only question, not having been at the meeting, is are you now comfortable with the layout and the structure of these agreements?
I am. I mean, other than there were some, I think that, that I actually haven't had a chance to talk to the township manager, but it did show up in the comments. So I did see what they were concerned about, that we weren't violating any articles of agreement. So, like some of these documents could potentially conflict, but I think what they're really trying to get at is just understanding who does what and who's in charge of what. Everybody's staying in their lanes so that there is no confusion. They're really just clarifying everything. And, definitions. I mean, these documents are really, really old. And so, anyway, just updating them.
And so some of that's part of this is the charge as well as the update some of those memorandums of agreements from the past?
For service, yeah, for
Okay.
park services, yeah, like what, maintenance agreements, you know, like that sort of thing, and how something gets accepted in, et cetera.
Excellent, thank you.
Yep.
So were there like 3 different documents? Was there,
There was the authority, the one between the authority and the municipalities, the authority bylaws, we were just looking at them, not that we have any say in those. And then the MOUs, the maintenance agreements, with the municipalities, because those will all be sort of individual, and then, I think it was like, those were the 3 that
okay.
really been hammering away at. Yeah.
Sounds like we need more homework.
Yeah, yeah, so those I assume will all be attached in the agenda then, because I didn't see
Right.
anything with the individual municipal MOU drafts. That's what I was looking for.
Right, and I think, yes, because they each would be individual, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, and I would hope even with the Lucy documents, maybe we can even at least get them sent out individually, just for informational purposes, so that you have them and can start looking at them ahead of a meeting.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nicer to have more time than just the Friday before a meeting to
right,
Yeah.
prepare going into a meeting.
I'll follow up with
Yeah.
staff on that to make sure that what
Yeah.
the latest comes from COG over to staff to get out to us.
And yeah, you even have a meeting recording as well
Of,
of the meeting, or,
all the meetings are, yeah, they're
Yeah.
all recorded.
because, yeah, in my job, usually I find time during the day, just something to be listening to while you're plugging away as well, that way you're,
Right.
helps refresh me and bring me up to speed, so. Any other questions or? All right. I see, so it appears the Center Region Parks and Recreation Authority had met with the Parks Capital Committee. Do we have anything from that?
Nothing to report from that, nothing to report. We were talking a little bit, but not really, about the Hess connection.
Okay.
But there was not much information at all given in that meeting. That one was held at Sunset Park. It was a sort of a low-tech meeting in that sense, but,
Okay.
yeah, there was no news out of Parks Capital.
Interesting. Right? Facilities.
Bad news.
Jeez.
My day job got in the way of that meeting. However, there wasn't anything substantial in the meeting. Probably a couple of folks, so
All right.
can't take any questions. But I can next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, feel free to send any questions over to Mr. Patterson. That will then bring us to our biannual financial presentation. Would someone like to present that or introduce it? All right. Looks like we'll have our finance director, Todd Grady.
Good evening. Let me get plugged in here. The PowerPoint's also in your agenda packet. I think James has changed something.
Connected in there.
Hey.
Cool.
I was gonna say, gotta hand it to James. He's working both sides of the desk tonight.
Okay, so this is the biannual, so it's as of June 30th of 2025. The formal report was in the packet back in July. We just want to present an overview. So the overview of the revenues are about 119% trending as of June 30th. Now, this is going to go closer to 100% because we have the real estate taxes are mostly collected in March and April, so that pushes the beginning of the year, revenues are generally higher. So as we get further along in the year, they'll come closer to zero. The total expenses, 12.8 million, about 89% of the budget. General fund, 7.3 million, or 77% of the budget. Nothing too alarming there. They're as expected. So you can ask questions as we go.
Please, so that 119%, that is the budget in September was expected to be at a certain number from a revenue perspective, we're 119% over that.
This is as of June 30th.
June 30th?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
got
so
it.
all the revenues, if we did $100,000 revenues, we're at 190,000.
Right. And I don't recall the budget, but help me there. Did we have that kind of lumpiness in our budget, or do we kind of chop it up one, X amount of dollars per month, and so?
No, it's all annual, and then we would divide by 12 and multiply by 6, right? So
Got it. Okay, maybe something to note for
it's
next.
prorated to
Sure.
reflect it for June 30th.
Copy.
So we're trending higher. However, the bulk of our revenue from real estate taxes come in the first half of the year. So as we get closer to fall, it'll go closer to 100%, or it will trend down. So I don't have a figure as of today.
So if I may, just to clarify, all these, we expect them to be close to 100% at the end of the year? They should be, the ones that are low will be trending up, the ones that are high and as high will be trending down.
Because the real estate taxes are almost done. We get a few stragglers, but they're all penalty now after June 30th. So the collections are down, but our regular revenues have already come, and other revenues, miscellaneous revenues is still coming in.
Okay.
So this is a slide on real estate taxes. You can see that we were about $420,000. We billed higher than last year. That's based on a 0.75 mil tax increase. We received about 92% so far versus 96% last year. There's no cause for alarm. I changed the way we're recording it. We're recording as cash received. And so the ones for June 30th, we don't actually transfer out of the general cash account until July. But last year we were recording them in June, for June.
Mm-hmm.
But we're on a cash basis now because that's the way the other things are recorded. And then at the end of the year for the audit, we'll do a full accrual and make sure everything lines up. So you'll see that the hydrant assessments are a little bit less than last year. You can also see the collections are down 89% versus 95%. For the same reason as the change in accounting. Streetlight assessments is down a little bit as well. We billed 1,248 less than last year, and the collections follow the same pattern, 90% versus 95%. And now the earned income tax. We added in here the annual budget. We budgeted $8.4 million. And so that was
On the last day of the month after the quarter, but you could get the check early or right on that last day, but it doesn't get to the bank until
it wasn't clear.
the beginning, it won't clear the bank until the beginning of the month, the following month.
February 4th before it gets, and then
Right.
now it'll come in March. So it gets kind of pushed back.
Sorry, I'm snickering only because people pay their taxes in January? Really? Sorry.
Well, quarterly, I pay on the
Quarterly is gonna be
31st.
January 31st.
Just interjecting some humor.
Okay. And real estate transfer tax, the annual budget, we budgeted $1,424,800. And that's basically based on historical trend. We do have, we're up 145,000 versus this time last year, and about 54,000 of that is on because of the 0.13 rate increase. However, you can see the monthly collections here. There's no pattern. It's the most unpredictable revenue source. It depends what's happening. Last year, example, in 2024, in the later half of the year, there's a big transfer of a property that changed the whole budget estimate. So, but we can't count that every year, so we just have to fill out the outliers and predict what we think is gonna happen. But good news is still, it's higher than last year. And that's, any questions or discussions?
Questions or discussions?
Or discussions or questions?
I guess,
Mr. Heller.
if I may, and thank you for this, Todd. I really appreciate this. I like going through the numbers and looking over everything, and then I sit back and I go, now what? What did we learn from this? And I guess that's kind of the finance hat right now. Everything looks like it's on trend, etc. So this seems more informational than anything else going into the budget season, but nothing really actionable from it, even as we enter the budget season. So I'm wondering if others here have ideas as to how this informs then our budget discussion. Because I see this as good information, but I'm missing the connection on maybe how we can use this as we go forward. So maybe open that conversation tonight.
Okay. I mean, this was an informational session in
Yes.
how I came up with, giving you a little guidance of how I estimate revenues.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think that's so missing. And so, we certainly, if you have a abstract items, we can discuss with the manager if you have any ideas.
The note about cash, that was a big takeaway for me tonight, so that was a great, eye opener, and I appreciate that. But, so
And I think
again,
it gives us insight into, like, as he said, they do the historical trends, they look at historical trends, they'll have to look at what's happening now in the world when they're putting together their budget that they're going to present to us. So I think it gives us an appreciation for the work that goes into it, behind the scenes, and I'm
Yeah.
grateful for that.
yeah, and that's good insight.
Yeah, and we're able to see at least a kind of a glimpse of what those increases that we set last year are
Right.
doing for us, and having just gone through the CIP and also the CIP at COG, we can see all those increased costs and capital expenses, so, just kind of connecting all of that for when we go into our budget. But no, again, thank you for this, because like you said, this has, it's been a while since we've had these kinds of updates, and this was just so well prepared, and gave us a chance before tonight to look at this and study it, so thank you.
Thank you.
My biggest takeaway, centers around the expenses. That in a 12-month period, we spent less than we thought we would. That's
A 6-month period.
in a 6-month period, we spent less than we thought we would. And I think where I need some help is from our community to identify positives and negatives from that. Positive consequences, negative consequences, meaning were all our services still intact? Did everybody receive all the services that we've said we were going to deliver in the last budget? That's it's a yes or no question, and I think I need help from the community. I know for me personally, the answer is yes. But I'd like to know if we do have that, if we are there. And I think the best way to do that is our Citizen Request Center portal, where folks can log things that they're not receiving or did not receive, and then it's something for the team, the staff to address and say, oh yeah, we did miss that, and okay, now we need to budget for something else. To just have that recognition of, are we still in this township having the same comparable services that we've had. It also tells me that we're not dipping into our reserves like we thought we would. That's good.
Right.
And so I've wanted to really focus on that, it's revenues and expenses. And then we knew for last year we wouldn't have enough revenue, and so we agreed to dip into expenses. And so as we move forward the next year, and I think last year I said is last year that I'm going to approve a budget dipping in the reserves. We need our reserves, particularly when I just read an article about CATA not getting state funding, and so now they've got enough money for 6 months until the state figures out a budget, but that's only 6 months. And so we've got to kind of be on that same footing when we go to do our 26 budget of the things that were there before are not going to be there going forward, I don't think. And so, we just tighten up, and I think we have tightened up. It looks here from a just pure numbers perspective, I think we've tightened up on our expenses. And that's good. So thank you.
Yeah.
Quantitatively, we're in good shape, and I appreciate that. And then the one question I had for you, Todd, was, everything's less in terms of a percentage received over a 6-month period. Is it a technological thing, meaning the new, county system, the new, do you have any insight as to the why?
I don't know, what do you mean, what is less?
The funds received, and I know the county changed their, when they, the system they used to.
The
Right.
income or the local service
Everything is less than, right, as compared to the prior year over 6 months, yes?
percentage of collections, that's
Correct.
due to the cash basis. My
Oh, it
switch-
was accrual in the 2024?
So
Oh,
I was accruing June in June.
okay,
Then all the other revenue we get is reported as cash, right?
Okay.
And so to match those up and have a comparable year over year, we have this pain point to get to, then
okay,
it makes better sense than we got the cash on the 7th, so we'll record it on the 7th, even if it's for June or July.
so if you were to have done this on an accrual basis for 2025, would it be higher?
It would be similar, I could look at it,
Okay,
it's not remarkable, that's why there's no cause
Okay.
for alarm.
got it,
It's
I see what
not-
you're saying.
It's not
This
good or
is,
bad, it's just different.
we're looking at cherry tomatoes and grape tomatoes, from a year, they're both tomatoes, it's just one smaller,
Right, so
okay,
25 and 26 that will be comparable data.
got
Will
it,
be a better,
thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, the only thing that I, had just thinking about this that came to mind was just, regarding the state budget situation, but, it sounds like this isn't the first time, this has happened in Pennsylvania, and it sounds like the township's always been in a good position to be able to weather a storm. I have heard of various government entities in the state of Pennsylvania either using their reserves right now to keep afloat while awaiting for the state budget to pass, and I've even heard of some that have had to take out loans to keep operating, but it sounds like anytime you run into those situations, it's best to have reserves, but it sounds like we're well positioned to operate for a little while, so thank you for the presentation. If nothing else, that will bring us to, I believe, unfinished business. Yes. We have a public hearing on a discussion or approval on a conditional use application for places of assembly at 2171 Sandy Drive in the Light Industrial and Research Development IRD District. And with that, we will recognize the Director of Planning and Zoning.
Thank you. As you said, this item was advertised as a public hearing. The township received a conditional use for a community place of assembly at 2171 Sandy Drive. This is in the IRD, which is the Light Industry Research and Development District, and that was made possible by a recent text amendment in the fall of 2024. As conditional use, the places of assembly require a traffic impact study. that was received by the township. And that traffic impact study was based on the site as it is. The parking is based on the total occupancy of the main meeting room, 311, therefore 103 spaces, and there are currently 100 spaces. Also included in the application is a proposed accessory use for homeschooling alternative site as well as childcare facility. That would have increased the, additionally, I guess there would have been an additional increase of about 178 spaces. But this additional use was not included in the traffic impact study. So that's a key thing to note. So therefore, let's see. Because they're operating off the existing land development plan that was approved in 2008, that the existing site with no proposed changes, that means that you could approve the conditional use just for the community place of assembly. If you decide that it meets criteria and to go ahead and approve the accessory uses, you would also want to include the condition that there is an updated traffic impact study and that traffic impact study therefore supports the accessory use. That was also reflected in the recommendation from the Planning Commission that a land development plan submitted to the township prior to any alterations, renovations, adjustments, or changes in capacity for the site. So that's the key item. Also, the petitioner is present and I can answer questions. And again, it is a public hearing.
Yep. Yeah, since this is a public hearing, I would open the floor so anyone from the public that wanted to address the Board of Supervisors can step forward, just state your name and neighborhood of residence, and feel free to share your comments. Seeing none in the room, anyone online wanted to discuss this? If not, I will close the public hearing and take any board questions or discussion. I guess if open the floor for any discussions, but then I would take a motion if there's no clarifying questions for the planning and zoning director.
I have a clarifying question.
Yep.
The 178 was for what use?
I believe that was, so there was an additional, like a sort of a wish list included with your with the application that increased the main meeting room occupancy to 511 spaces. And so that math doesn't sound like it. It should be close to 178.
Additional.
Anyone in the room that has.
It's 536 occupants. That's the estimated occupancy after renovations in the main assembly hall.
I've got two numbers.
And that's
Okay.
the use on service days, main service days,
Correct.
peak service days,
Correct.
right? And
Yeah.
But it's based on the main assembly room.
right. I always struggle with this because there's a book that says, all right, flip the page, whatever. All right, when you have a worship space, okay, here's your calculation. Hours based on people in the room. And so we're, this particular site, as I read, there's some other, they're gonna get some agreements with some other places to use those in the main, in addition to their existing, and that's gonna be, as long as they have those agreements, they're in compliance, yes?
Correct. The one thing that should be noted here is that is really not the question that's on the table for this particular application in this agenda item. The question is really about the use at the site as it's currently constructed. So any change that would increase occupancy is going to trigger an increase in the number of parking spaces, which would need a land development plan. At that point, the land development plan would then have to be reviewed. You would have the additional traffic impact study, additional parking study, and that would go through the normal review by planning commission and approval by the board in that process. So the MPC, Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, recommends that the conditional use, the use of the property, is determined first before the applicant moves forward with a land development actual submission. So that's really what the question is here, is if the site as it is currently constructed is approved to be used as a place of assembly. And then any changes that would result in additional traffic or parking requiremements, that would be separate as part of the land development plan submission.
Okay. So in its current construction, peak parking is thumbs up, good. The other use for daytime, Monday through Friday use, good? Or is that,
The place of assembly is good. Any kind of accessory, such as the homeschooling school, is not good because it wasn't included in the traffic impact study. Doesn't mean it
but
won't be
that's because there's 100 spaces on site today, and it's gonna require
good.
170.
It's
You don't
simply
even
that
know.
it wasn't included.
We just don't know.
We just, yeah, that would need to be identified during the land development plan submission.
So, yeah, so if they want to go beyond just the accessory, beyond the place of assembly, and if you can approve it as such, but then they have to do the additional traffic impact study, which will likely trigger a land development plan renewal update. And as the assistant township manager stated, then that goes through all the normal channels, so you would see that again as well.
I apologize. I thought I understood this, and maybe I'm off here.
Yeah.
So what was submitted, if the traffic impact study that was submitted along with the application included the accessory use, we would bring the whole package to you and say, go ahead and approve. However, it did not. So we can't cleanly say, sure, the whole thing. So if we're gonna include the proposed accessory uses, there needs to be a caveat, a condition that says they will come back, that they will update their traffic impact study. It is likely that that will cause changes to the exterior that trigger a land development plan. Otherwise, they're just swapping uses. They're using the existing land development plan.
That's what I thought I understood was that. And I guess I thought I understood that peak use was covered because they were using the parking lots of others and everybody was good. And that's what I was trying to understand. If they're using the parking lots of others for the other uses, in addition on site, that's also kind of good. That's what I was just trying to get clear on. I think.
So the traffic and the parking, the two different issues. So the traffic study that was presented with the application covered church as a use, and and that was what was used as the
Peak
metric.
service.
So, yeah, and so when it was reviewed by the township engineer, the numbers, yes, they increase on Sunday in terms of traffic that would be on and off the site as the site is being used to hold services. But Monday through Friday, there's a decrease from its current use, so it all leveled out. It was deemed to be an acceptable level. There was no inclusion of data or metrics comparable for homeschooling sites or additional uses of Monday through Friday in that initial traffic study. So the traffic studies, it was okay for uses of church. We don't know for the other uses. The parking comes whenever it meets the parking standard based on the current occupancy as permitted by Center Region codes today. If there's an increase or any change that would increase the occupancy, that's going to trigger additional parking. At that point, because it's triggered additional parking, you need to submit a land development plan. The submission of a land development plan, then at that point, you can do a parking study to get a more accurate portrait of how much parking do you really need when you include the street parking that's available and other resources that are in that area, so you can get a more specific number. and you can do the traffic study to identify those accessory uses. There are various accessory uses permitted with places of assembly. Some of them are not relevant. They're not discussing them as those uses, but there are multiple accessory uses. So with the land development submission, that would have to be identified. That would have to be studied in the traffic impact study and identified as in the parking study as well.
Copy. Is there a way to analyze this, do the traffic study with those additional uses in place? To require, make that the condition versus like, we need to go back to the book versus, no, let's just study like a Monday at 9 a.m. when most of the homeschool kids get there, you know, that type of thing.
I don't perform traffic studies, but as I understand them, it's really based on an expected traffic rate versus what known numbers there are currently utilizing the surrounding infrastructure, how many people at the intersection and whatnot. To answer that question, I don't have 100% certainty that you could or couldn't do it that way, but just that was the observation that was made at whenever the traffic impact study was reviewed. That it didn't include the additional uses. The scope of work that was identified was for evaluating the place of assembly.
Yeah, and just so everybody understands where my brain pattern here is I'm very much about like, do we want this applicant to come back several more times, or do we want to just say, go forth and be fruitful, and come back later, like do a traffic impact study once you've leveled out your thing, those uses, and then do this traffic, like require it, yes, but later when they've actually used it. That's where my brain is going, just from a order of operations here.
I think that's flipped, because you need the land development plan. So what we were suggesting is you're focusing on is the use acceptable, add in there, is the accessory use acceptable, but if so, put that condition that they must do that traffic impact study to determine if the land development plan needs to be updated. This is kind of a wormhole, but they're so close to their impervious surface and other requirements that if the land development plan has to be updated, they don't have a whole lot of wiggle room.
Yeah. Maybe the applicant may have something to
They're welcome to come forward.
Mr. Patterson, I appreciate your dialogue, because it's helpful. I honestly, first of all, James and Kim have been great to work with, so in this process. I honestly think some of it just has come down to the sequencing. When we initially worked with the township, with the previous staff, there was maybe just a little bit of a different approach that wasn't right or wrong. When we sat down a year and a half ago with the staff, we presented, we are a church, this is what we do. We have a small homeschool, co-op, different things like that. At that time, it just felt like relationally with the staff, our car count, just the number of people wouldn't necessarily trigger that, which I believe is why the township did not, we worked in partnership with the township to develop that traffic impact study. I just think it came across like it's a small homeschool co-op, so it wasn't necessary to include that in the scope of work. That was kind of worked out with the township and the people that did the study. As far as cars, we're talking 46 cars approximately, 2 days a week or 3 days a week. The Mondays, it's 26 cars. I don't believe it's going to end up triggering another full-blown study. It is a small scale. But I think it just has to do with the approach of how we're doing it now. So bottom line is, I guess, is two things. Number one, we want to work with the township. This is a great use for a large property that's been sitting on the market, like a lot of other commercial real estate, and nobody wants big parking lots added in our communities. So the bottom line is we feel like everything we can do, we can make work in that building with the current parking. The accessory use, we have way more parking than we need during the week. But the second part of it is there's no possible way as a church we're going to be able to make this work without a waiver or some reasonable arrangement with the township for a small window of time Sunday mornings. So eventually we are going to come with, our engineers already reached out to the staff, we are going to come with a land development plan, but we are going to need maybe some grace and relational work as far as working Sunday morning for a short window of time to have some reasonable arrangements. Everything else is covered during the week, so we have plenty of parking on site for everything else we do during the week. All right. I'll answer any questions here if you have for me, but
I'm good. It's really about kind of staff. I want to make sure I'm not putting anything out there that's not correct and not within the bounds of the MPC. But I really feel like I don't know that there's a conditional use necessary here. It's really just go forth, and then when you come back with that bigger plan, that change, then. But that's where my brain is. That's what I'm trying to make sure I'm staffing up.
Go ahead.
You mean condition, it is a conditional use.
Sorry, condition in the motion.
Okay.
Just blanket, good to go. That's where my brain is, and so I'll pause there for my colleagues.
Do you have anything, Lisa?
I'll go first. So, I mean, I'm in favor of approving the conditional use and the accessory uses. I think that's clear. I think that's been, we've thoroughly covered all of that. And so I think the question now is if we include the conditions suggested by the Planning Commission, which were the land development plan and the additional traffic impact study. So, I mean, I think I'd feel more comfortable moving forward with those as conditions, because that's what the Planning Commission is recommending at this point, and, not without digging into the MPC. But I think, my question too is, with parking requirements being in our saldo, do we have flexibility on usage requirement and so forth? So if you want to.
So the answer is that yes, the board does, and part of that process is that waiver modification process comes with the land development plan submission. So knowing that that was likely going to be a request, that's part of the condition, is that you can't really enter that process or entertain those waivers or that modifications without the submission of a land development plan. So it all kind of essentially, the condition is not extra, it is necessary in and of itself, but really wanting to differentiate that out so that we could separate out the use from the actual land develop, the site itself, but the use being permitted versus the requirements of that would necessitate all the updates and renovations.
Thank you, and that was my memory. I'm having to step back to the Planning Commission. So that was my memory of how that all functions. So I think in my mind that just keeps processes and procedures equal, and more, fairly and easily applied, honestly. I think, if you just have these processes, but then that was one of the reasons that we moved parking requirements to the saldo, is that so that we could apply those waivers when people came forward, because we didn't want to have massive empty parking lots 90% of the time just to be used. And it's obvious that the applicant's been working with the neighbors trying to get some agreements in place. So I think that all makes sense. But I'd be as I said, in favor of approving the conditional use and the accessories with the conditions set forth by the Planning Commission. But I agree with the end that you're trying to get to.
I agree with what you just said, Lisa.
thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So do we need to make a motion here?
Yes. I'll get staff an opportunity to analyze it just to make sure we got you what you need to work with.
All right, somebody help me with my motion here. This is Patty. I move that the Board of Supervisors approve the conditional use application at 2171 Sandy Drive, State College, Pennsylvania, with the conditions applied, oh golly. Come on. With
Let's go with the conditions set forth.
set forth by the Planning Commission. Okay.
And does that include accessory uses? Do we need to say that explicitly?
I can read it exactly. That a land development plan is submitted to the township prior to any alterations, renovations, adjustments, or changes in capacity for the site, which is really required anyway. And then so included with that is the updated traffic impact study. So I don't know that that's implying they have to start over with the study, it's just the additional additions.
That's a very good clarification, but I just wanted to make sure that the motion included the conditional and accessory.
Oh, yes, it did, I'm sorry.
We
Yes,
probably should write that in.
okay, let me try this again. Okay, so I move that the Board of Supervisors approve the conditional use and the accessory use at 2171 Sandy Drive, State College, Pennsylvania, with the Planning Commission recommendations. Did I get that?
This is Amari. I second.
Okay.
So we have a motion on the table. How's staff feeling on this? Got it captured? Okay. It's workable, because I want to make sure of that.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, is this a roll call vote?
It is a roll call vote.
Okay,
Sorry.
I
Yeah,
will-
I was blank.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Patterson.
Yes.
Ms. Stevens.
Yes.
Mr. Heller.
Yes.
Ms. Strickland.
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right. Thank you. Good collaboration. Good discussion there. So new business we have the consent agenda tonight, which has an agreement with Greenfield Architects, a authorization to direct Public Works to conduct a traffic calming study, a donation request to Ferguson Township Elementary School, and a pay application for Beaver Branch and micro surfacing. If no board members want to pull any of those items, I would entertain a motion to approve them.
This is Patty. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
This is Matt. I'll second.
Got a motion by Ms. Stevens, second by Mr. Heller. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. All right. Next, we have a discussion on designating a portion of Pennsylvania Route 45 as a Pennsylvania byway. And I will recognize the Assistant Township Manager.
Thank you, Chair. Ferguson Township has received a request from the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau, who's in attendance tonight, to consider supporting the designation of a portion of Pennsylvania Route 45 as a Pennsylvania byway under the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation's Byways Program. The state-level designation is intended to recognize transportation corridors with notable scenic, cultural, historical, recreational, or natural qualities. If approved, the proposed byway corridor would include the segment of PA Route 45 that traverses Ferguson Township, connecting important agricultural, historic, and scenic resources. The PA Byways Program is a voluntary initiative and does not impose regulatory restrictions on local land use or private property. Rather, it serves as a recognition and promotional tool that may open access to funding opportunities for corridor enhancements, wayfinding signage, and interpretive programs. Designation also aligns with broader goals around preservation, sustainable tourism, and regional identities. So this item is for board discussion, and depending on the outcome, staff will prepare a resolution and advertise a public hearing if that is the will of the board.
All right, so this is presented for consideration, so I guess just go into a board discussion, and however we conclude that, we'll give staff the direction on next steps. I was going to say, since we do have representatives from Happy Valley Adventure Bureau, if you had a presentation or any remarks, I welcome you the opportunity for now. If you want to come up forward now, or if you wanted to just stand by if we had any questions, however you wanted it. Yep, that way everything is heard on television and at home on the computer.
Hi, I'm Leslie Smith. I'm the Public Relations Director for the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau.
My name is Josiah Jones. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Strategic Partnerships.
So yes, we are looking to have the portion of Route 45 through Center County designated a scenic byway. One thing that has changed since we last had conversations with the township is we are seeking the legislative route. And I know Josiah can explain a little bit more about that process. And so what we would need, though, instead of a resolution, would be a letter of support. And so we do have commitments from Harris Township, Millheim Borough, the Penns Valley Conservation Association is also supportive of the effort. We have presented to Haynes, Potter, and Gregg twice. We do need to go back to them officially to see if they're on board with the support. And then it is our intention at that point to seek a legislative sponsor. So we would meet with our local delegation to have that designation go through the legislative process.
Yeah, just to clear a few things up, again, this is Josiah Jones from the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau. When we first started to go after and see if we can get this as a scenic byway, designated as a scenic byway, we started to go a different route. And so we were asking a lot of the townships and boroughs to create a resolution, to stop from billboards being erected along the highway moving forward. What we learned is that with a little bit of pushback, we found out that there was two different ways that you could get a byway designated. Once we learned that from talking to the executive director from the State Scenic Byway Foundation at the state, she mentioned that there's a legislative route. That way, whenever there wouldn't have to be a resolution put in place, and then you wouldn't have to enforce the signage law or have code enforce that. It would be the state then that would enforce making sure that new billboards would not be erected. The current ones that are already on Route 45 will stay there. They'll be grandfathered in. If they start to get dilapidated, then they would have to go and fix those. But other than that, everything stays the same as it is now. Just new billboards will not be allowable or permissible.
And I think that's an important point of clarification, that it does prohibit future billboards, which is not the same as business signage. And so you think, for example, in Ferguson Township, J&L Farm Cidery, that's a business sign, that's not a billboard. So it is, does not disallow yard signs, any type of business sign, it's specifically billboards, future billboards.
Any questions?
Awesome.
Yeah,
Mr. Heller.
I guess my question is, the one thing I was looking at, funding opportunities for corridor enhancements. Do we have examples of what those corridor enhancements have looked like in other places, in other farm areas? Because where 45 goes through Ferguson Township, it's all farming except for Pine Grove Mills. It's all farming community that's under ASA, not jurisdiction, but protections and everything else. So what does a corridor enhancement look like in that sort of environment?
Well, really, I don't have an example, right here, right now, but because there's so little scenic byways across the state, there isn't really a whole lot of examples, but there is the opportunity for grant funding. And so if there is any recreation or any other kind of opportunities along that corridor, what this does is once you state that you're along the state that whatever you're applying for is along that corridor or on that state scenic byway or just off of it, it moves you up, ahead of some others because, you're a scenic byway, state scenic byway. So it does help you with your grant opportunities. But I don't have an example for you. I apologize. I could find one and send one over
I would be curious, because I know in previous times where we've done expansion, or what some would look at as improve the corridor in the farming communities, wasn't well received. So I'm trying to figure out a good, happy medium, happy path here, where it makes sense, and where the farming community, you know, feels like a partner in the conversation, because that's going to be an important part of this. So an example would be very helpful. Thank you.
So when something is designated a state scenic highway, where is it advertised? Like what, I'm just curious. I'm a non-driver, so I don't know what a state scenic highway means.
So they just put up blue
Is it,
signs
is it
along
like
the
on,
roadway?
does it show up on Google Maps or Waze or?
You get a little bit of both, so there will be signage, so the state will put up signage for us and have Mountain Laurel, that's the state scenic byway.
I have seen those.
Have you seen those? Yeah.
Yep.
Clickrell County has one, for example. I was the executive director there for a long time, and having that state scenic byway was beneficial, because then we also advertise it as well. And what that does is it helps with economic benefit. There's a big economic benefit to it, because then we create brochures, we promote that, you know, as much as we can, so that people can come and enjoy that route as much as we do, right? So, a lot of advertising would go into it. There would be some kind of strategy, signage all the way up and down it. Once you hit the line on both ends of Center County, where Route 45 is, you'll see signs all the way through.
Thank you.
Oh, no, well, I was gonna ask similar to that, I'm just not familiar with the program, so other than the signage, and how many signs are you talking about, I guess, you know, how many signs are going to, but I'm just not familiar with the program, other than the signage, and you said pamphlets, what would be the, you know, what would we see?
Yeah, that would really be based on what the state thinks we need for signage. For the most part, they put them in really important intersections, so you would see the byway signs. They're pretty large, and it shows the state flower on it. Brochures and many other things, like even promoting it on social media or digital marketing. I mean, we could put thousands of dollars behind that, marketing dollars behind it to promote it. And, you know, normally when we order new brochures, it's around 1,000. Because then what we do is we take them to trade shows and promote those. And a lot of people are always looking for new bike routes, new routes to drive their cars. They like the 3-day or the 3-hour travel. You know, so again, whenever they're up here and there's a state scenic byway and we're promoting all the businesses along it, that's going to be a big economic driver for those communities too. And what you're going to see is you're going to see more growth. You know, businesses are going to start popping up some more on the highway as well.
And we have economic information, like we have a site that we can send you to make sure you have that. There are a lot of travelers who seek out scenic byways, and so I think that's one of the benefits too. You think of the Route 45 getaways, that initiative. I mean, to have that effort and then be along a scenic byway, I think would only help initiatives such as that. It also gives us an opportunity as we market the byway to have that important safety messaging for motorists. So you think of our Amish community, you think farm equipment, cyclists. I mean, that's messaging that we can also, we have a better platform of getting that messaging out to our visitors who are here to share the road and do so safely.
That's very helpful, and I think like what Matt said, just having, you know, some more information around the program and what it would look like, you know, in the community, I think would be helpful for the next discussion. And then you mentioned billboards. Are there other regulations? It's only billboards?
Just billboards.
Okay.
And that's really there's been a lot of confusion over what is a billboard and what isn't a billboard. So business signage is not considered a billboard, and so that's just something that we've been working to clear up as well, what is meant by a billboard,
So I guess aside from signage then, are there other regulations? Okay.
Sorry. Oh, go ahead. Oh, well, I just was wondering too then, if there's any current sort of benefits for a state scenic highway in terms of, I think I just saw a PennDOT map that talked about EVs, or that NEVI, whatever the And if there's any potential for electric vehicle charging along a state scenic highway or something, if there's anything with that.
There very well could be, that might be part of the corridor plan, you know, setting something like that up. But I don't, there's nothing like that in place now that I'm aware of, but we could do some research.
I just want to say I love this idea because I could not agree more. That stretch of road that we have in Ferguson Township on 45 is phenomenal. You think about turning at the light, just past the farm, past the cidery and everything. You start to enter, you don't even realize Pine Grove Mills is there until you go up a little rise, and then there's this town right out in front of you with streetlights that turns off into the distance. Oh, great. And then you go through that, following the speed limit at 25, right? We all do, let's make sure that. And then you exit out into farm field and country. I ride a motorcycle. It's one of the best things where you can just enter and you are surrounded by beautiful fields all the way through the rest of the township.
Yeah, and oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, please. I just think this is phenomenal. I really appreciate you coming to us with this.
And we've had conversations with, certainly not all the businesses along the corridor, but with a lot of them, and the response has been overwhelmingly positive as a result, so. And I know this issue has come up in the past, maybe 10 years ago, I think there was an effort to try to seek the designation, so it's not a new issue, but one that we hope that we can secure the designation eventually.
Thank you.
When you said about people seeking scenic byways, that really resonated to me as somebody that has driven I-4 in Florida from Orlando to Tampa and then went back to Orlando taking the scenic route. It is a much more pleasanter drive.
I think that the, just the note you made on, you know, kind of, the education side of it, I guess, you know, the other types of vehicles people might encounter on the roadway, I think that's a real benefit to something like this, you know, for somebody who may not be familiar with the very large farm equipment they might encounter on that road. I think that'd be really helpful.
In speaking of the farm equipment, that may be a good partnership to team up with representatives from the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau. They have a lot of good educational tools on that.
All of my concerns are addressed. Thank you for being here to do that. I think the signage versus billboard was a concern for me. The, for lack of a better term, policing of this no billboards thing was a concern, and so with the legislative route, that's addressed. I think the one thing missing is the community, is the people that are along this corridor that would be impacted, because somebody may have a billboard in their plans right now as part of their strategic plan on some farm. And I just don't want to get in the way of that, because we have, at least my commitment was to keep Ferguson open for business, to also keep Ferguson beautiful. So those things may conflict if someone has in their plan, but if the community does not, and hey, we're farming here, we have our cidery as one I think of that's not a farm, or horse farm, or crops. If none of that's impacted, then this is a no-brainer to show that we're committed as a township.
Yeah, and just so this is, you know, one of the steps in the process, and so to seek legislative sponsors, I mean, obviously the lawmakers that we approach, they're going to want to know that the municipalities are supportive, that the businesses are supportive, and so we still have outreach to do on our own, and we have a meeting with some business groups, so this is kind of just early in the process, but definitely when we go to meet with our elected officials, they're going to want to see that support. You know, they want to know that the community's behind it, the elected officials and those municipalities are behind it as well, so.
What's your date, your drop dead date for a letter of support?
Well, since the state budget is still, originally our original plan was hopefully that we would have had it introduced in the fall. That's not going to happen, obviously. It's not going to be a legislative priority. And so I would say as soon as possible, because then we still have to go back to some of the other outlying municipalities to get their support as well. So the stronger support we have, then I think our elected officials will be more comfortable to introduce the legislation that's necessary.
Sure, going into Greg and saying, we got Ferguson, we have Harris, we have,
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
we're good, you know, what do you think? And it gives them a little bit more to think about when they go to make their decision. Got it. I guess consensus wise, how are we looking?
Well, I thought of another question. You had mentioned about, you know, if there was a billboard in like the business plan. I do recall on 45, there is some billboards currently that are promoting a place of tourism. I guess moving forward, if this was to go through, I guess that isn't necessarily an option for a existing or newest, or so they could still say, you know, come to our winery, or, okay.
Yeah, those ones, the ones that are already there get grandfathered in, so they still exist, they can still promote, you know, the ads and,
Yeah.
you know, switch over.
You're not gonna start seeing billboards for Cracker Barrel and whatnot going forward. Okay. So, I guess straw poll consensus?
Yeah, to bring it back for whatever it is to
Letter of
approval
support.
letter, yeah.
Yeah.
Draft it up and see what we think then.
ChatGPT will be finished in about 10 seconds.
Oh, you're gonna draft it up, okay.
Give the community some time. That's the input, man.
Especially one thing.
And I don't think James needs a formal vote, just we want to bring this back forward for further discussion and action on sending letters of support.
Yes, you could do that, and you could do it that way, or you can have a motion to authorize the manager to draft a letter
Yeah.
of support, and
Let's do that.
That sounds more consistent
This
with
is
what.
Patty. I move that the Board of Supervisors ask the manager to draft a letter of support for the designation of the state byway. Is that what it is? Yeah. And for our next meeting.
And do we have a second?
This is Maura. Oh,
This is Lisa, I'll second.
Got a motion by Ms. Stevens, second by Ms. Strickland. Any further discussion? Okay. Not all those in favor say aye.
aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Okay. Motion passes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right. Next, we have a discussion on promoting safe and affordable housing options, and we will recognize the Assistant Township Manager.
yes, thank you, Chair. The continued discussion on promoting safe and affordable housing within Ferguson Township. There's an attached memo from the Township Manager describing the request. 1 and 2 renters in Center County spend over 30% of their household income on rent, and over 40% of households in Ferguson Township are rented. Tenants tend to have inferior bargaining power and resources than landlords. As a result, they are often forced to accept inferior rental terms and defective property conditions, and are unable to assert what legal rights they have for fear of losing their home. It goes on to say the following request from the members of the public. The Board of Supervisors is asked to consider the current topic of affordable housing and renters' rights, and to continue discussion on Ferguson Township's commitment to a safe and affordable housing options for all residents, including actionable steps that can be taken to protect and promote this sentiment. Yes, so it's continuing discussion.
All right. So we want to start with a board discussion, or see if we had any members of the public that wanted to present anything else this evening? Guess we'll open the floor. Any members of the public had anything seen possibly done in the room? Yeah. Okay. Anyone online? All right, board discussion? Yeah, and this is just a discussion, so there's no action.
I think this is probably going back to when Mr. Ziegler was here and like tenants' rights or something. I think he was asking about that, and of course, I completely support that.
Right.
I believe, has Patton Township, do you know, I don't know if you know, James, has Patton Township passed a tenant's bill of rights? If other townships have adopted?
I'm not 100% sure.
State College Borough had passed a similar ordinance.
Okay.
But as far as I know, that I think they're the only ones that have adopted such thing.
Is it possible for us to get a look at that? I guess I could just go online and look at it, but yeah. Yeah, okay.
In my understanding from that or from what they did in State College Borough, it's somewhat laid a foundation that other center region municipalities could tack on to, because I think there was some things about like reports and whatnot coming through like COG and, because I think code actually has records or the capability of being able to record any violations and just basically information to help protect consumers. I know the property maintenance code this past time around when we approved it, there was a provision in there about having utility bill cost, which helps somebody understand, you know, $1,000 a month rent, well, what's the electric bill gonna be like in the winter, or the heating bill, or what's the electricity gonna be like with the air conditioning in the summer, and.
Right.
Yep. And I was gonna say, we're very fortunate in this area to have a lot of, nonprofits and other organizations that can probably be good partners for, you know, helping renters navigate particular challenges. Understandably, a lot of good number of renters here haven't rented before, so being able to have resources or information to help them navigate, you know, how to read contracts or how to raise concerns or address legal concerns. See a bunch of us in deep in thought.
Deep thought, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So, number one, Mr. Brogar, quick question for you. Is there in our citizen request portal an opportunity for, and I look at it, I'm always, you know, trees and shrubs and grass, but is there like a tenant where a tenant can say, my roof's been leaking for the last 6 months, and that we then forward that on the codes? I mean, or does codes have their own portal that people can go there? Because I'm looking at the write-up, and that's one of the things. It's not good housing, and they're scared they're going to get kicked out if they keep complaining about a thing.
I don't believe that is part of our request portal at this time. We do receive various emails, phone calls, people looking for information or looking for assistance that we forward on and communicate with the appropriate agencies from time to time when it happens. We don't have a designated platform or segment of a portal or anything specifically for those items, but like I said, we do receive those types of things from time to time. As for how Center Region Codes handles it, I'm not really sure what they prefer or how they go about addressing those concerns, but I would say And, you know, I think Kim would echo this, that we receive a fair amount of, and sometimes I guess it could come through in the form of ordinance enforcement. Oftentimes, when it's something involving housing, it's usually an email or a phone call or somebody stopping in to address an issue.
The reason why I ask is because capitalism works until someone decides to abuse it. And when that abuse happens, that's when government steps in. And so, reason why I'm deep in thought is, at what point does government step in? At what point does the township, in this case, at what point does the township step in? And I don't know the answer to that. From a safe housing perspective, I think from a encouraging developers to build with our ordinance, we have that. And that's gonna have some modifications at some point. But what are the other ways that when the folks that should be maintaining their properties, and the reverse, the tenants should be maintaining what they've been permitted to kind of live in, that somebody needs to step in and say, okay, we got a problem here. And I don't know the answer. I'm just maybe voicing for anybody to have an idea and bring it back. But I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer to that question of where does the township, where does this board step in to address these things.
Some of the things that we currently do, and Kim, you can follow up on this. For instance, the rental permit process, the approvals that come through zoning, ordinance enforcement. We do take a look at where are our rental properties and where are we experiencing, a high volume of ordinance enforcement complaints, those types of things. We do keep track and work pretty closely with codes on anything when it comes to a rental permit, whether that's short-term or long-term rental permits. Anything that falls on the township side, I think because the agencies are very closely related, there's a lot of phone calls and emails back and forth anytime that an issue does arise to get it into the proper agency. So from that side, if it's something that is more related to zoning or township ordinance, we'll handle that. If it's a building code or a housing issue itself, that usually goes to codes. But along with all of the other Center County agencies and the resources, there's a lot of education. The township maintains resources on our website and try to forward those along anytime. And we get requests for somebody who's looking to help somebody else and says what's available, and we forward those resources along to them too. So there's a lot of interaction and sort of creating a network of things to support renters from that side of it. I don't know, Kim, if you have any other.
Yeah, my perspective might be a little bit different just because of the communities I came from, but where I came from, we would hear a lot of, I don't have heat, my landlord locked me out, or those kinds of things. But the few things that I've seen come through were more related to behavioral, or they had too many guests, so the landlord said, hey, this is not matching our lease, so what do I do? But some of those calls, like one person came in and asked, it was close to the end of the school year, it was a student, but it still prompted us to just look into how to disseminate those resources easily. And then that was at a time when I was a little bit newer, and so a couple of us were involved in just how easy is it to find our resources. So we do have the handouts, we do have the website, we know that now, but I'm not it's like I say, so I haven't witnessed the emergency type calls, outside of something like a storm event. I know there was a lot of stuff related to that, but that was also calling for someone else. Other things that come to mind, again, we have these other agencies, so they don't directly fall with our work plan items, but things like housing conditions, assessments, and things like that. Proactively, we talk amongst ourselves that at full staff, we want to do more analysis. He just mentioned one, looking, this goes back to the mapping, overlapping. We know where the rental permits are. We know where those calls are coming in. Are we seeing clusters? And how do they coincide? And then looking at, we talked about all of it, age, condition, how many permits that aren't necessarily ours, but they give an indication of upkeep, just to kind of have an idea, because we brainstormed all the way to, brainstorming, so don't, all the way to what are tax credit opportunities and things like, kind of everything folds into the ED side when we talk about future us. But again, so for as far as immediate work plan, so many of those things fall within other agencies, which is why we haven't had the immediate, we do this, for what that's worth.
Yeah, and just following up on that, there's the rental program that Center Region Codes put together, and the process that an applicant for a rental permit needs to go through is pretty robust. There's a lot of checks in there, all centered around general public health and safety, to make sure that we don't end up in those situations to the best that we can. There have been things that have come through from time to time where it might look on the surface that this is an easy one to just check the box and send it back to an agency. And, I think we do a really thorough job of making sure that everything matches up. We don't put people from a zoning perspective, from a township perspective, that we are, adhering to health and safety standards and not putting people in situations where they could be in danger or in a bad situation, and kind of then working with Center Region Codes or another agency to sort it out. So there's a lot of interagency cooperation from that angle.
Mr. Heller?
Yeah, I must say, the part that I struggle with is the affordability side. I think, yes, as it says here, the housing is a human right, and every person should have safe, accessible, healthy, period. And that's where we come in with COG and code and everything else, to make sure it is living up to those expectations. The part that I do get wrapped around the axle on, as mentioned, is the affordability, because we have so many different types of rental properties. We have houses that are for rent. We have townhomes that are for rent. We have trailers that are for rent. We have 4 bedrooms on a common area that are for rent. Everything is different. We have college students. I remember being a college student, $640 a month for my apartment. That was probably 80% of my monthly income. We have so many diverse renters, but they all deserve to have safe, accessible, and healthy areas that they live in. And I think that's where the focus needs to be, while we understand and maybe get a little bit more data, information on who is renting, where these areas are that might be struggling with meeting the safe, accessible, and healthy housing requirements that we have, and how do we bring them up to code or up to standards so that people are safe. Again, I think we just have to maybe separate these two out, at least in my mind, where the affordability side has to come with more data later, but we can do more in the code and the safe, accessible, healthy side now. Just some thoughts.
Yeah, I just will say that I appreciate what you just said about the affordability piece, because I think we do, it sounds like between someone calling in with an issue, staff is handling it and doing the best that they can to make sure that people get their resources. I don't know what we can do about affordability, but when I was just at these, Ferguson Forward, I did the Ferguson Forward event, talking about economic development, and that was a theme, was the housing affordability. So again, maybe we'll get some information from some of that feedback that we got from those events. But yeah, I mean, to your point, we have so many diverse rentals.
And I think the struggle for me, again, is back to the data. Because even with the presentations we saw last year around housing and everything, if I remember the number correctly, it was a family of 4 making $80,000 a year should be in a home that's worth $356,000. Those numbers don't work in Center County. A family of 4 making $80,000 a year is not looking for a $350,000 home. They're looking for the $120,000, $130,000 home that might be in your Phillipsburg area or outside. So I want to make sure as we continue these conversations that we're getting data that is right for Center County, wherever that data may be. Not national averages or something else, but $80,000 a year looking for a $356,000 home just doesn't make sense to me. I just don't know those families.
I was gonna say some of the national numbers I've seen thrown out there are staggering as well. You gotta make over $120,000 to even start qualifying for a home. How many people just themselves make that in this area? Should we let Mr. White have a moment? I'm gonna be a compassionate chair and say yes.
Trevor White, Ferguson Township. So y'all are kind of dancing around the issue. The issue is there's too many landlords. That's that's the data that we got at this economic development forum. The issue at hand is that we are agglomerating landlords, and as such, as landlords agglomerate their wealth, you get more and more interest. We're seeing that in the data. We're seeing that in the bimodal income distribution here in Ferguson Township. We are seeing the data that we are having monopolistic activity here within Ferguson Township, within Center County, in the nation. And so frankly, what we should be trying to do is reduce the number of landlords. I know that's scary, but it's driving wealth inequality. And apologies, I'm also quitting nicotine right now, so I'm a little irritable. But I just want to put that out there. Y'all are kind of dancing around it, and I think it would be helpful to say what is really happening right here, right now. We have too many landlords. It should be harder for somebody to be a landlord because it should be easier for somebody to buy a home. That's the crux of housing affordability. And I say that as somebody who might be a landlord in the future. It's not good. The founder of capitalism deemed it it's called rent-seeking behavior, which is when you extract surplus and add no value. Adam Smith coined that because he knew that landlords added no value. They just took value. And so I say that knowing that there are landlords here that I'm talking to. It's not your fault. You have been thrust into this system. I'm not blaming any individuals. It is just how it happens. So when we're looking at housing affordability, we need to be looking at how do we increase home ownership and how do we decrease the number of landlords. And some of that might mean calling out the bad ones, making sure that those that repeatedly violate ordinances are shown to be bad faith actors. Get them out of this market because they're hurting all of us. And that's, I don't know, all I gotta say. Sorry. Like I said, antsy, irritable.
Thank you, Trevor. I would concur, there should be a good balance for, there should be a balance, because I know some people, they wanna rent, they don't wanna have to deal with, oh, the storm came through and now I need to put a new roof on the house. Nice benefit of renting, you don't have to worry about that, or if your dishwasher stops working, the landlord would fix that. There are people that desire home ownership, and there are good things that come with home ownership, so being able to strike the right balance, because I have started to see that becoming a concern, where somebody will come across new housing development or something, and find out they're all being rented, and it's like, okay, there's plenty to rent, but where do I go to, own my, home?
Yeah, that was one of the things we discussed, that's a problem here. When you have a more affordable home, not only do you have first-time home buyers trying to get in on that, you have wealthier people from out of town come in with a cash offer and using the place 7 times a year. And that is a problem. And, if I had a solution, I would offer it, but I don't know how you get people to incentivize people to sell to families people who are going to work in this community, as opposed to somebody who's going to come up 7 times a year. And I don't know.
And we do have a stipulation in our short-term rental ordinance to help with that, so that they do have to be owner-occupied.
And Harris Township's starting to look into it as well.
Yeah. And so, that's because that is a concern. We're always going to have high rental rates, because we're kind of a transient community with, a high population of people who don't want to own. But to your point, I think, the safeguarding measures that we can on things like the short-term rentals, I think is very good.
We have some thinking to do. There is some action to take. I think I've heard some really good stuff.
Yeah.
I don't have any action right now. How about that?
No, and the only other note I made was, I heard a lot about other partnerships. We already have such a relationship with Code, and James was just making such a good point about what a property owner does have to do to rent their place. But, is there some other angle of enforcement that we need to be pursuing through Code? And then with Penn State, a lot of these renters are students or grad students, or, people just here temporarily. So what can Penn State contribute on the education side, so that they're maybe accessing the resources that you've created to make them a little bit more available as people come in? They're really the first point of contact for our community's new residents. So, what are they providing as far as education to those renters?
What are you thinking there, Matt?
Sorry, my mind just went to, wouldn't it be interesting if you could walk up to a property and see a little Penn State or a COG certified emblem sitting outside, going, oh, there's a third-party entity that has at least endorsed or supported this group somehow through some means.
I actually saw something like that in Atlantic City. It was actually a Airbnb, and I guess they had to get some certification from the municipality, but then inside the doorway, you had a logo and I think even like information and phone number, just basically saying like, hey, this home has been inspected and is registered through the municipality, and the person that owns it is following, following or expected to follow, our ordinances.
We have a LEED certified building over here, okay. We know folks have 6 Sigma certifications, okay, it's a little certificate. Something that maybe COG says, yes, we do this. Maybe the landlord does an extra inspection a year to get that.
Even looking at it, maybe even like a report card thing.
Yeah.
I see that with food establishments. We have an A+. Well, I guess I would want to eat there. We got an F. I think I will find another restaurant.
And then you put it out on social media, you put it out on the township websites, on the COG websites, other places to get the word out. Some ideas.
Yeah, I like it.
That's all I have.
How do we want to package this up? We're just taking notes and then.
There's no action required tonight.
There's some board agenda items, I guess. Folks can bring some things forward. I don't have anything.
No, I mean, and is it worth maybe too, getting with the other municipalities and doing like a housing summit or something, you know, just to get people talking as a separate event or something, but to do just that, brainstorm.
I think the key is what we're doing is the partnership between the community, the renters and municipalities and COG and ...
I can bring it to Lucy at our next meeting.
Yeah.
And see what thoughts they have, particularly on the code and Penn State interactions, I
Right.
think. I'll bring that.
Yeah, and I think code would be valuable, you know, just like, you know, Matt's idea, but even thinking about like how you have like, I guess it would be like the Better Business Bureau, like if there is a particular complaint on an establishment, there is a way that you can go and report that. Same thing with code. If they, you know, I almost would imagine they may even have the infrastructure in place. How do you, you know, put stuff together where, you know, and I think even the intent behind the, what's being proposed here is a way to even be able to look up particular violations and whether they were resolved or, you know, and maybe going back to even Matt's idea of, you know, having that grading, like, well, this landlord's got an A+ with code, this one's got a D- with code, and being able to see how, you know, what kind of reports they're getting and how they were resolved, if resolved, and you know, you get an understanding, you know, a better understanding of the property, you know, what are the pros and cons of the property, you know, does it tend to be cold a lot in the winter, or has there been a lot of bug complaints and,
Oh, gosh, yeah.
you know. But I can also, you know, I just see it as a mechanism to help people be better consumers, but also, you know, even have, you know, levels of accountability that, you know, like, look, you know, if the roof starts leaking, I can't be, you know, oblivious and just, you know, let it, you know, continue to rot and get mold and all kinds of, what, you know, there's one thing leads to another. Gotta take care of your property.
I would say be very careful, because that's bordering on reinventing redlining. If they don't have to follow through on what would give them a D-, if they are not legally required to raise that.
Yeah, could you just reiterate that so it's on the record?
Sorry, I don't mean to be the negative Nancy here all night. Yeah, so basically I would be careful about this, like the grading scale like that, because that could be reinventing redlining if they are not required to bring that up to like A values, for example, because then you could have persistent D-, you know, people coming from there that don't have to, or that meet certain criteria. You know, like it really could wind up being a reinvention of redlining if people are able to keep subpar standards. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's spot on. I get that.
Right, yeah, totally agree. Want to be ethical in all this, and again, what I was saying, want to have some level of accountability, because there's, just certain ethical things that you just can't get away with, got to be able to provide, a good product and service. So. Anything else?
No, this is great.
Got everything you needed then, James? Okay. I appreciate this coming back forward. Great discussion. Look forward to more, maybe even a little bit of time to do some research, maybe with some of these ideas like the grading scale, is there other places that have actually done this in, a way that, does work without, getting into any vulnerabilities and liabilities, so. Communications to the board. I was gonna say, you had a few, Patty.
Well, most of them have been resolved. I forwarded them on to staff, but I think the one that, there's been some requests to look at an intersection in the neighborhood, it's currently a two-way stop, and they want to make it a four-way stop, or seeing the feasibility of a four-way stop at Lynn Street and North Hills Place.
Where you go down to no, that's not the one.
Our neighborhood has some intersections where it's two-way stops and four-way stops, and it's confusing. And I think people just are looking for a little more consistency. Either everybody stops, or we just have a lot of pedestrian traffic, bike traffic, and car traffic that it's confusing.
Right. And I've heard about the one coming out of Suburban Park.
That one's
You
a
don't
three-way
have to
stop.
stop there, but it's a
Exactly.
three-way stop.
I think that one would also love to be in the discussion or the look at.
Right.
Right.
And I think it's even signed like traffic from the left doesn't stop, and I've heard of intersections like that in other municipalities that have I heard of one in particular. It was just creating so many accidents that they just made it a four-way stop because everyone's like, what, cross traffic doesn't, so does that mean I don't stop even though it says stop? And
there's some confusion. Some people will seek Lynn Street because it doesn't have a stop sign, so then it creates speeding conditions where people will go a little faster down Lynn Street because they know they don't have to stop. And anyway, there have been some concerns about it.
It's still like that at Cherry Lane and Martin Street, right at Radio Park Elementary.
Right.
And the traffic that does not stop is the traffic that goes over the crosswalk.
okay, yeah.
Yes.
That's one I would suggest for next year's CIP that everybody consider.
Yes. Yes.
Because that's a two-way stop, and the traffic that doesn't stop is where the students and parents would cross, so.
I have to look too. Is that a weird one where you don't have to turn except, on right, unless going right, and with it being a school zone, it just, Good information. Any other communications? Yes, Matt.
I had two that were related. First was about tractor trailers speeding through Pine Grove Mills, and then the use of brake retarders on those tractor trailers. So maybe that's a future agenda discussion, is potential brake retarder prohibition, thank you, between signs or something. So that was the two related. And then one positive I always thought, which I think is nice, is a resident was expressing their appreciation for the supervisors and staff for the extra hours that everybody puts in for these meetings. And then they also added caveat, they don't always agree with the board of supervisors, but they appreciate the time. So I thought that was a nice little positive out of that. I want to bring that forward.
Any others? I was gonna say, we haven't been saying this in the meeting, but one thing I will point out, since we have we have done a lot of upgrades to the sound system in here, so that it is able to be heard. It's now even interconnected with CNET, so they don't have to put out a trap of wires in front of us anymore. But with us getting into the back to school season, just throw a shout out inviting people, even students, young people, to even stop and join us for a meeting, kind of see what government's like. You're always welcome to join us. While we would like to do the stay for the whole meeting, you're always free to come and go as your schedule permits. So, don't feel obligated if you do join us in person that you would have to stay the whole time, but we would love to fill up the room. We have plenty of seating, so feel free to take a look at our meeting calendar and plan some time. And also, if you are a young person, it might get you some extra credit or a nice amount of writing material for a upcoming school project or report. So
That's
just
also,
throwing that out there.
it's a good plug too, if you suffer from insomnia and you need something to help you sleep late at night, these are all recorded online and,
Better than melatonin.
Bearing no other communications, Ms. Stevens, would you like to present item number 10?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we are adjourned. Have a good evening, folks.